President Trump, you
I'm
go first.
urging my supporters to go into the polls and watch very carefully.
Well, it's hard to get any word in with this clown. Excuse me, this.
Hey,
this
let me
person.
just say to you.
No, Mr.
Number
President.
two.
You just lost the left.
Number two.
You just lost the left.
He's going to be the first president of the United States to leave office having fewer jobs in his administration than when he became president.
What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name.
supremacists and
Who would
white
you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud
militia.
Boys, stand back and stand by.
Joe Biden and Donald Trump faced off in the first presidential debate of the 2020 election at Case Western Reserve University and Cleveland Clinic in Cleveland, Ohio. The debate was moderated by Chris Wallace of Fox News Sunday. Prior to the debate, Wallace set out to divide the evening into 6 different segments, each approximately 15 minutes in length, and discussing a separate election issue. The topics chosen were Trump's and Biden's records, the Supreme Court, the coronavirus pandemic, race and violence in cities, election integrity, and the economy. Despite the structured organization of the debate and forceful presence of the moderator, the evening's proceedings were anything but orderly.
Don't tell me
I'm
about
happy
this.
to talk about this.
And if you were here,
Look,
it
here's
wouldn't be
the deal.
200, it would be 2 million people because you were very late on the draw. You
Late
didn't
on
want
the
me to
draw.
ban China.
Are seeking to overturn
That's right.
Obamacare, to end Obamacare. You have spent the last...
Because they want to give good health care.
If I may ask my question, sir.
Donald, would you
And
just
you don't
be quiet
know
for a
her
minute?
view on Roe v. Wade. You
I
don't
don't
know her
know.
view.
Well, all right. Let's talk.
Number one.
Joe, you
Number
agreed
two.
with Bernie Sanders, who's far
did-
left, on the manifesto,
Will
we
you-
call it.
will
And that
manifest-
gives you socialized medicine.
Look, hey,
Are you
I'm
saying
not
you
going to
didn't
listen to
agree?
him. The fact of the matter is, I beat Bernie Sanders.
Not by much.
I got very lucky. I'm going to get very lucky tonight as well. And tonight I'm going to
With
make
what?
sure, because
With what?
here's the deal. He waited and waited and waited. He still doesn't have a plan.
Wrong.
I laid out
Sir,
back
it's
in
his 2
March
minutes.
exactly
So
what we
wrong.
should be doing.
CNN's Jake Tapper aptly described the debate as a hot mess inside a dumpster fire inside a train wreck. Indeed, even the organization behind the debates recognized the problem. The nearly unwatchable chaos of the evening prompted the Commission on Presidential Debates to promise changes to the way future debates will proceed. They wrote in a statement, "Last night's debate made clear that additional structure should be added to the format of remaining debates to ensure a more orderly discussion of the issues. The CPD will be carefully considering the changes that it will adopt and will announce those measures shortly." In this video, I'll break down some of the most important moments of the first presidential debate. I'll point to some of the most egregious false statements and discuss how the event is likely to impact the presidential race going forward. I will also, of course, answer the question, who won? Question Time Politics is supported in part by viewers like you. Shout out to my newest patron, Blackie. You too can support this channel at patreon.com/questiontime. And while you're at it, you can also follow me on Twitter at QTPolitics. Let's begin by talking about what is probably the central question of any debate. Who won? Since the primary objective for a presidential debate is to win over the support of the American people by either converting voters to a candidate's side or by improving the voter enthusiasm of a candidate's existing base, a substantial part of winning a debate is winning in the eyes of potential voters. A poll conducted immediately following the debate by CBS YouGov indicated that the debate was close, but tilted in Biden's favor. 48% said that Biden won compared to 41% believing that Trump did. That's a spread of 7 points. This particular poll, however, does not provide much of a basis of comparison, which is a little problematic. Many, and probably most Americans already favor one candidate over the other, and it doesn't take a genius to realize that the supporters of a candidate are inclined to say that their candidate won the debate, regardless of what they actually observed. Another poll by SSRS and CNN does provide such a comparison. In this case, the study asked prior to the debate who respondents thought would win the debate, and Biden was favored here by a margin of 13 points. After the debate, those numbers changed significantly, especially for Trump. Biden was seen as winning by 60% of respondents, whereas just 28% said they thought that Trump had won the day. So Biden beat Trump in the post-debate survey by 32 points. If we factor in the pre-debate poll by subtracting that 13-point spread in Biden's favor from the 32-point post-debate spread, it appears that a 19-point spread in Biden's favor still remains. So even if we count the pre-debate guesses as a bias in the group surveyed, we still see a strong perception that Biden won the debate. Finally, let's move on to a study by 538 and Ipsos, which I think does the most thorough job of breaking down how the debate might impact the actual opinions of voters. This survey did ask the basic question of who won the debate and found a decisive win for Biden here, 59.7% to 32.9%. But rather than just asking who won the debate, they also asked the even bigger question both before and after the debate. How likely are you to vote for each candidate? Prior to the debate, we see that Biden had an average of 5.0 to 3.8. After the debate, both those numbers moved in Biden's favor, but only slightly, to 5.2 to 3.7. Matching these results were questions about favorability, and we see slight increases to the favorability of Biden and unfavorability of the president. We also see decreases in the favorability of Trump and unfavorability of Biden. In other words, the changes in all four favorability factors favored Biden, but only by slim margins, changes of just 1 to 3 points in all cases. These slight variations, however, are rendered virtually meaningless when you consider the margin of error of the study, which is plus or minus 2.7 percentage points. Of course, the opinions of debate watchers has only a partial bearing on what the overall impact of the debate will be. Around 73 million people watched the debate live on television. This does not count online viewership, but it does include viewership of non-voters and probably a lot of people who just had the TV on in the background. Now, about 129 million Americans voted for either Trump or Clinton in 2016. So clearly, for a substantial portion of voters, the debate's impact will be indirect. I would argue that for the vast majority of people, the actual live debate will be less significant in determining their votes than the post-debate reporting and the memorable moments that are shown again and again in mainstream media broadcasts and across social media. Even among those who, like myself, actually sat through the entire debate, it's nearly impossible to recall the full package of a 1.5 hour debate. What sticks in our collective memory are the biggest moments. So let's talk about those. Let's break into this by showing a few highlights for both candidates, moments where I think each of them shined. For Trump, a lot of these moments consisted in rebuffing common criticisms, that he didn't pay enough in taxes, that he's sowed division in the country, and that his economy is in shambles.
Like every other private person, unless they're stupid, they go through the laws, and that's what it is. He passed a tax bill that gave us all these privileges for depreciation and for tax credits. We build a building and we get tax credits, like the hotel on Pennsylvania Avenue. You get a massive, which, by the way, was given to me by the Obama administration, if you can believe that. During the Obama-Biden administration, there was tremendous division. There was hatred. You look at Ferguson, you go to very many places. Look at Oakland. Look what happened in Oakland. Look what happened in Baltimore. Look what happened. Frankly, it was more violent than what I'm even seeing now. Why didn't you do it before when you were vice president with Obama?
Because you, in fact, passed that. That was your tax proposal.
I got it done. And you know what happened?
Yeah, you got it done.
Our economy boomed like it's never boomed.
The economy.
And you know one of the reasons I'll have so many judges? Because President Obama and him left me 128 judges to fill. When you leave office, you don't leave any judges. That's like you just don't do that. They left 128 openings. And if I were a member of his party, because they have a little different philosophy, I'd say if you left us 128 openings, you can't be a good president. You can't be a good vice president. But I want to thank you because it gives us it'll probably be above that number by the end of this term. 300 judges. It's a record.
Little fact check on the last one there. While I do think it is a persuasive argument, the Obama administration didn't simply leave the court appointments on the table. They were blocked by the Republican-controlled Senate. Let's turn now to some of the best lines from Biden. Many of these consisted in saying witty lines and or highlighting negative moments of Trump's presidency.
He knew all the way back in February how serious this crisis was. He knew it was a deadly disease. What did he do? He's on tape as acknowledging he knew it. He said he didn't tell us or give people a warning of it because he didn't want to panic the American people. You don't panic. He panicked. He talks about these great trade deals. He talks about the art of the deal. China's perfected the art of the steal. We have a higher deficit with China now than we did before. There was a peaceful protest in front of the White House. What did he do? He came out of his bunker, had the military use tear gas on him so he could walk across to a church and hold up a Bible. And then what happened after that? The bishop of that very church said that it was a disgrace. The general who was with him said all he ever wants to do is divide people, not unite people at all.
Our suburbs would be gone, and you would see problems like you've never seen.
He wouldn't know a suburb unless he took a wrong turn. He has, in fact, worked on this in a way that he's going to be the first president of the United States to leave office having fewer jobs in his administration than when he became president.
Little fact check for Biden, too. While the Trump job losses thing is true all the way back to the Great Depression, he's not the first ever to fail in this manner. Herbert Hoover almost certainly left office with fewer jobs remaining than when he was first elected, having served in office from 1929 to 1933. Also, of course, Biden's statement assumes that jobs won't bounce back after Trump leaves office, either a few months or a few years from now. Plus, it's as dubious as it is widely accepted that a president can really be credited or blamed for the economy that exists while they lead the executive branch of the federal government. At any rate, probably the most universally accepted opinion about the first presidential debate is that it was a disruptive mess.
What does it mean for them going forward if you strike down the Affordable Care Act?
Joe, you've had 308,000. You didn't want me to ban.
All right, gentlemen,
which was heavily
Mr. President.
You would have been
Mr.
much
President,
later, Joe.
Mr. President,
much later.
Mr. President.
You're talking about 2 million people.
You're not
Mr. President, as a moderator, we are going to talk about COVID in the next segment.
And so the election is already
You don't know it's
begun.
on the ballot. Why is it on the ballot?
Because
Why is it
you
on the ballot?
said
It's not on the ballot.
You have never in these 4 years come up with a plan, a comprehensive plan
Yes,
to
I have.
replace Obamacare.
Of course I have.
Well, I'll
I
give
got
you an
rid of the
and
individual
when I finish, I'm going to
mandate.
give you an
Excuse me,
opportunity.
I got people
President,
with
I'm the
pre-existing
moderator of this
conditions.
debate, and I would like you to let me ask my question, and then you can answer your
ahead.
question. Option to Obamacare, and
Yes.
the argument that he makes and other Republicans make is that that is going to end private insurance.
It is
and
not.
well, if I can
sorry.
ask you the question, it will
Not
end.
what your party says, by the way.
It will end private insurance.
Moderator Chris Wallace checked both candidates over the disruptiveness, but pushed back against Trump a little more.
Well, frankly, you've been doing more interrupting
Well, that's
than
all
he
right,
has.
but he does plenty.
Well, less than, sir, less
there's
than
plenty.
No, less than you have.
This plays a bit into the narrative pushed by the Trump campaign now that Wallace was not a fair moderator. For example, he claimed in tweets after the event that the debate was a 2-on-1. In fact, when it comes to disruptiveness, Wallace was correct. Trump cut into Biden's time far more often, and analysis of the speaking time for each candidate shows that Trump did end up getting more time overall throughout the debate than did Biden. And while I would find it quite surprising if Wallace did not prefer Biden personally over Trump, both candidates got tough questions. Several questions directed toward Biden, for instance, were framed to suggest that his positions were too far to the left, a suggestion that plays into Trump's narratives and is somewhat frustrating for those of us who would prefer Biden to go further to the left. Beyond the constant disruptiveness of the debate, both candidates went a step further, directing insults toward one another.
Here's the deal. The fact is that everything he's saying so far is simply a lie. I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
But you
I just
agree.
want to
Wait,
make
wait,
sure.
Joe, you're the liar.
I want to make sure.
Graduated last in your class, not first in your class.
God. I'm not going to answer the question
Why
because
would you answer that
because
question?
the question
you want to put a lot
is
of
the
new
question
Supreme Court
is
justice,
the
radical
question-
left.
Will you
Who
shut
is
up,
on,
man?
Listen, who is on your list, Joe?
This
Who's
is
on your
so
list?
Right, gentlemen, I think
This
we've
is
ended
so
this.
He's going to pack the
unprecedented.
court.
We have
We're not going to give a list.
We have ended this segment. We're going to move on to the second segment.
They sure do.
47 years you've done nothing. They understand.
All right,
And a lot more are going to die unless he gets a lot smarter, a lot quicker.
So-
Mr. President.
Did you use the word smart? So you said you went to Delaware State, but you forgot the name of your college. You didn't go to Delaware State. You graduated either the lowest or almost the lowest in your class. Don't ever use the word smart with me. Don't ever use that word.
Oh, give me a break.
Because you
man.
know what? There's nothing smart about you, Joe. 47 years you've done nothing.
Let's have this debate.
And if
We'll
you
see
would have
who's
had, let me just tell you something, Joe.
As well as with the sanitation they need. You have to provide
that
them
to Nancy
plastic.
Pelosi.
Well, he's just shush for a minute. people out there need help.
But why didn't you do it over the last 25 years?
Because you weren't president. Because you weren't president screwing things up.
You were a senator. And
You're
by
the
way,
worst
you were
president America has ever had.
Hey,
Come
Joe,
on. Well, it's hard to get any word in with this clown. Excuse me. This.
Hey, let me just say to you.
No.
He's the racist.
You just don't know.
Here's the deal. I know a lot more about
You
this
don't
than he
know.
does.
Telling Trump to shut up and calling him a clown were not particularly helpful for Biden, who has often criticized Trump for lacking civility and for sowing division. If he wants to contrast himself against that, he needs to avoid that sort of thing. But Trump also missed the mark. While Trump has never presented himself as presidential or civil, his personal style is most appealing when he's surprising and funny. His performance at the debate was less charming than usual. When he delivered the "Don't talk to me about smart" speech, one that was no doubt intended to be funny and clever, he crossed the line from tough guy into bully, I think. And I think anyone who isn't already an ardent supporter of his will likely think that he came off as, well, a jerk. Most of the president's trouble throughout the debate, however, was not stylistic, it was tactical. A number of lines of attack seemed to fall flat because he didn't seem to know exactly who he was debating. A miscalculation clearly occurred in his debate prep, where his team probably thought that Biden would do more to ingratiate himself to the far left. For example, Biden has never supported Medicare for all. And while he and Bernie created unity task forces to work on a number of policy issues, the recommendations of those task forces were, for the most part, far more aligned to Biden policy than Bernie policy. The recommendations do not even mention Medicare for all, and instead recommend a public option plan. This is what Biden campaigned on during the Democratic primaries, and is also what's in the Democratic Party platform. But this all seemed to come as news to the president during the debate.
You agreed with
Here's the
Bernie
deal.
Sanders to the
The
manifesto.
whole idea.
Let him.
There is no manifesto, number
Please
one.
let him speak, Mr.
Number
President.
two.
You just lost the left.
Number two.
You just lost the left. You agreed with Bernie Sanders on a plan.
Folks,
absolutely agreed
folks, do you
to,
have any
and under that
idea
plan,
what
you
this
have
clown's
socialized,
doing?
They call it
Mr.
You
Mr.
have any
President.
do?
socialized medicine.
Mr.
Well,
President.
I tell you what.
I think Trump is saying the quiet part loud here when he says, "You just lost the left." He does it again while speaking about the Green New Deal.
You support
No, I don't support the Green New
Oh,
Deal.
you don't? Oh, well, that's a
You
big
let-
statement.
I
That
support
means you
the
just
Biden-
lost the radical left.
I
Oh,
support
you
the
don't.
Biden plan that I put forward.
This one might actually be a win in terms of perception for Trump, because most Americans are probably not aware of the nuances involved here. Biden and many other moderate Democrats have embraced the term Green New Deal in describing environmental policy that they support. But this is by no means the document that is most commonly referred to as the Green New Deal, the Green New Deal resolution introduced into Congress by Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Senator Ed Markey. Still, Biden did not draw this distinction very clearly. Rather than clarifying, he kind of muddled the issue, and I'm not exactly sure why.
His brain is gone.
There was also a repeated criticism by Trump that Biden is so against law enforcement and law and order that he would not even speak those words.
I don't think you have any law enforcement. You can't even say the word law enforcement, because if you say those words, you're going to lose all of your radical left supporters. And why aren't you saying those words, Joe? Why don't you say the words law enforcement? Because run by Democrats and in many cases radical left, and they've got you wrapped around their finger, Joe, to a point where you don't want to say anything about law and order. The people of this country want and demand law and order, and you're afraid to even say it.
The vast majority of police officers are good, decent, honorable men and women. They risk their lives every day to take care of us. But there are some bad apples. And when they occur, when they find them, they have to be sorted out. And I'm totally opposed to defunding the police offices. As a matter of fact, local police, the only one defunding it, his budget calls for a $400 million cut in local law enforcement assistance. They need more assistance.
The Democrats that run these cities
Absolutely ridiculous.
don't want to talk like you about law and order.
Violent
and you
crime,
still haven't mentioned.
violent
Are you in
crime.
favor of law and order?
I'm in favor of law. You follow it.
Are you in favor of law and order? Go
Yes,
ahead,
I'm
say
in
it.
favor.
You asked a question, let him finish.
Law and order.
He loses
Law
left.
and order.
Let him answer.
Law and order with justice, where people get treated fairly.
Yeah, so bit of a misfire there. Another example of Trump apparently not understanding his opponent was his insistence that Biden use the term super predators.
where you call them super predators, African Americans are super predators, and they've never forgotten it. They've never forgotten it, Joe.
No, sir.
That was Hillary Clinton, not Biden.
We need to take these people on. They are often connected to big drug cartels. They are not just gangs of kids anymore. They are often the kinds of kids that are called super predators. No conscience, no empathy. We can talk about why they ended up that way, but first we have to bring them to heel.
Although, to be fair, Hillary Clinton said that in support of Biden's 1994 crime bill, and Biden did use similar language around the same period. In a speech on the floor of the Senate, he spoke of criminal young people who are at risk of becoming predators.
Unless we do something about that cadre of young people, tens of thousands of them, born out of wedlock, without parents, without supervision, without any structure, without any conscience developing, because they literally, I yield myself 3 more minutes, because they literally have not been socialized. They literally have not had an opportunity. We should focus on them now. If we don't, they will, or a portion of them will, become the predators 15 years from now. And Madam President, we have predators on our streets.
Prior to the debate, I argued that the COVID pandemic is probably the mother of all issues for this election, and indeed there was plenty of discussion around this issue. The significance of this part of the debate is also, of course, of even greater significance now, given Trump's announcement, just days following the debate, that he and First Lady Melania Trump have tested positive for COVID-19. Biden came out swinging against the president, criticizing a number of public statements he made about the crisis.
They're going to be
This is the same man
It's
who
all
told
set
you
up.
by Easter this would be gone away. By the warm weather, it'd be gone. Miraculous, like a miracle. And by the way, maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm, and that would take care of it. This is the same man.
That was said sarcastically,
That was
and you
him-
know that.
I-
That
I-
was said sarcastically.
And so here's the deal.
Now, I don't think Trump was actually being sarcastic about injecting disinfectant, but Biden's presentation of the matter makes it sound like Trump was suggesting ordinary people try this out. It seemed more to me like a boneheaded research suggestion of no real consequence.
So, supposing we hit the body with a tremendous, whether it's ultraviolet or just very powerful light, and I think you said that has him in check, but you're going to test it. And then I said, supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do either through the skin or in some other way. And I think you said you're going to test that too. Sounds interesting. Right, and then I see the disinfectant, where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number of the lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that. So that you're going to have to use medical doctors with. But it sounds interesting to me. Did you use the word smart?
Trump pushed back about Biden's claims that he had handled the pandemic poorly, drawing comparisons to the Obama administration's handling of H1N1.
I know how to do the job. I know how to get the job
Well, you
done.
didn't do very well in swine flu. H1N1, you were a disaster. Your own chief of staff said you were a disaster.
14,000 people died, not 200,000. There was no economic recession.
Sir, you made a
Far
no,
less
there was no
lethal
recession.
disease,
you made
by
a
the
point.
way.
Let him answer.
This was, in my view, a huge mistake. Obviously, the coronavirus pandemic has had far more dire consequences. It's almost certainly unfair to compare the two diseases. It's tilting the tables against Trump. So really, I have no idea why he would want to draw that comparison.
His brain is gone.
Moving on.
He's not worried about you. He's not worried about the people out there breathing in one another.
We've had no
or
negative
cheek to
effect.
jowl. No negative effect.
We've
Come
had
on.
no negative effect. And we've had 35, 40,000
All right,
people
you wanna-
at these rallies.
This no negative effect line is pretty strange, given that Herman Cain contracted the virus shortly after attending Trump's Tulsa rally while not wearing a face mask.
He's been totally irresponsible the way in which he has handled the social distancing and people wearing masks, basically encouraged them not to.
All right.
He's a fool on this.
If you could get the crowds, you would have done the same thing. But you can't. Nobody cares.
Gentlemen, can we move on
Nobody
to the
cares.
gentlemen?
Trump also fired a shot at Biden that really didn't age well given his recent diagnosis about the size of Biden's masks.
You have to understand, if you look, I mean, I have a mask right here. I put a mask on, when I think I need it. Tonight, as an example, everybody's had a test, and you've had social distancing and all of the things that you have to. But I wear masks when needed. When needed, I wear masks.
Okay, let me ask.
I don't wear masks like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking 200 feet away from it. He shows up with the biggest mask I've ever seen.
It seems to me that public perception will now estimate that Biden's more cautious approach was appropriate. Perhaps the most remarkable moments of the debate, however, were not in the things that candidates said, but in things they would not say. When Chris Wallace asked whether the candidates would wait to declare victory until the election was independently certified, Biden said that he would. But here was Trump's response to that question.
Will you pledge tonight that you will not declare victory until the election has been independently certified? President Trump, you go first.
I'm urging my supporters to go into the polls and watch very carefully, because that's what has to happen. I am urging them to do it.
So in other words, no, he won't. His pivot to complaining about voting by mail allowed him to hit on a topic that no doubt resonates with his base, but the refusal to comply with the democratic process is troubling, to say the least. To be fair, Trump did say that he would be on board with a fair election.
I hope it's going to be a fair election. If it's a fair election, I am 100% on board. But if I see tens of thousands of ballots being manipulated, I can't go along with that.
This doesn't inspire much faith, however, that Trump will act in good faith. It appears like he's setting up a scenario where he can claim it was a fair election if he's declared the winner, and dispute the results if he loses. Of course, the biggest moment from the first presidential debate, which will be most remembered, was almost certainly Trump's failure to condemn hate groups like the Proud Boys.
But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
are you
I'm
prepared
willing to do
specifically
that, but
do it? Well, go ahead, sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it.
You want to call him? What do you want to call them? Give me a name.
White supremacists and
Who would you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem. This is a left-wing. This is a left-wing problem.
Trump's response here was almost universally criticized. Rick Santorum claimed it was a huge mistake. Even Brian Kilmeade of Fox and Friends criticized the president over this, saying he ruined the biggest layup in the history of debates. While we probably shouldn't be all that surprised by Trump's reaction to the question, we should note that he's had very similar struggles in the past. When asked back in 2016 about David Duke's endorsement, in the moment, Trump refused to condemn him and claimed that he didn't know anything about him or his group.
I don't know anything about David Duke, okay? I don't know anything about what you're even talking about with white supremacy or white supremacists.
It took a few days for Trump to finally say this.
All right, I disavow, okay?
That all went down 4 years ago. And for years, he still hasn't figured out how to respond to questions about hate groups. As Kilmeade said, it was a layup. Trump could have included in his answer as much as he wanted to about left-wing groups and Antifa, but it had to begin with something like, "Of course I condemn hate groups." At any rate, Trump dropping the ball on this led to a merchandising opportunity for the Proud Boys. It also gave Biden's campaign fodder for a new campaign commercial.
Are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
What do you want to call them? Give me a name.
White supremacists and right supremacists and right
Proud Boys, stand back and stand by.
If there is just one line remembered from the first presidential debate, it will be stand back and stand by. I'm not totally convinced that Biden won this debate, but Mr. Trump certainly lost it. And he did so in that moment more than any other. Assuming a speedy recovery from Trump's recent coronavirus diagnosis, the next presidential debate will take place on Thursday, October 15th in Miami, Florida, moderated by Steve Scully.
Okay.
But prior to that, we will be treated to the vice presidential debate on Wednesday, October 7th, moderated by Susan Page. While it will certainly be interesting to see Kamala Harris and Mike Pence square off in this contest, it is highly unlikely to have any impact on the actual election. I don't think anyone has ever analyzed a presidential race, looked back at the VP debate, and said that that was the moment that determined who won.